I'm tired.
The Late Morning Program with Nam Ras Podcast.
Hare Krishna, everyone. You are listening to the Late Morning Program with Nam Ras Podcast, the number one Hare Krishna podcast in the world. I'm here, number one. I'm here with Nakula Das. Nakula Das, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I so appreciate being here. And you are the number one Hare Krishna podcast in the world. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I don't know if it's true, but I just keep saying it, and I think it'll happen.
I love it.
So a little bit of background on Nakula Das. So I seen some of your stuff on Facebook, and I was like,
All right.
Who is this guy, and what is he talking about? And I was so incredibly skeptical about what you're doing. So. And then when Jai Jagannath, who's a really dear friend of mine, was like, hey, Nakula Das is coming on Bodhika. And I was like, what? I listened
you got to
the,
appreciate him for giving me that shot.
Yeah. I want to talk about that. Yeah. But I watched that episode and I was blown away. I love the way you approach the topic. I love the way you're trying to help people with it. And I thought it would be a great fit for the Late Morning Program for you to come and talk to devotees about it, because I think this is something, like Christian people, they have support groups and all kinds of things for this kind of thing.
Way ahead of the game.
Yeah, way ahead of the game. Why don't devotees have that? Why don't devotees have that? And I just want to give a shout out to Karuna Avatar and Jai Jagannath at Bodhika for kind of like breaking open that subject. They're really like trailblazers when it comes to opening it up and talking about this kind of thing. And I wanted to, bring you on and talk about the same thing. But let's talk a little personally first about your story in Krishna Consciousness, because I don't know if everyone knows, how you came in contact with devotees and all that. So let's start there. Yeah,
sure. So my journey into Krishna Consciousness I was just exploring spirituality. Myself and my wife, Sarah, we were like always interested. I grew up Catholic, right? So I'm, I always say I'm Hare Christian, right? In a way, right? Like I'm Hare Christian because I grew up Christian, and I still feel very inspired by Jesus in my life personally. And I love when I came to the yogic world and got introduced to the philosophy of yoga, how it was first through Yogananda. And I read his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and I was like, wow. And the way he talked about Jesus, and he gave this beautiful description of God, and he spoke of Krishna, and it was really cool. So anyways, my point is that I was just on a spiritual path and journey, and I've read the Bible, I've read the Buddha Sutras, not all of them, but some of the Buddha Sutras and the basics. I've studied with Shambhala Buddhists. I've done Reiki and healing and the Akashic records. And if it's woo-woo and spiritual or weird, I'm into it. I'm like, let's try this out. I've meditated. I've read occult stuff. I've read sex ritual stuff. I mean, again, if it's weird, occult, my three favorite subjects in the world are sex, politics, and God. And so those are the things that I like to explore. But I explore them in a way of like an explorer. Like, what is this? Like, And I love those topics because they're so they're so intricate in the way we live our life, especially sex. Sex has such a tremendous impact on your own psychology here in this material body. And it's so important to understand how sex intrinsically actually influences your day-to-day life.
Wow. So and then where did you get in touch with devotees and things? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there was no big story. I was going through this. I read Autobiography of Yogi. I went, at that time, inherently, there were some things that started coming out in me when I started my spiritual path and journey. The first was I wanted to go vegetarian. I went vegetarian not because I became a Hare Krishna. I went vegetarian because after we brought home our first cat, Vinny, I fell in love, and I was like, man, this is a soul. And then when we got Hunter, who's a different cat, and I saw that they each had their own unique personality and way. So I have a very different, my relationship with Hunter and my relationship with Vinny are very different. And so I just was like, yeah, I kind of wanted to just move in that direction. And so I did, but it was definitely devotees that gave me the strength to do it for sure. But I wanted to go down that train. So kind of intuitively, there was just some of the things that really gravitated towards. So I was reading all this stuff, and I went to see a shaman. And after this kind of shamanic experience, I had this tremendous experience of euphoria and bliss, and very like extremely present in my life, and all those kind of spiritual kind of moments many spiritual seekers experience. And it was through that I was looking for some music, something to play at home that was a spiritual vibe, and I typed in something, and I attended the YouTube ashram, I call it, right? I'm a product of YouTube, right? That's why what you're doing is awesome, especially for the younger generations.
Right.
And I deal a lot with younger generation issues, right? And so I went onto YouTube, and there's this blue guy, and he's got this cool flute, and here comes the Hare Krishna mantra. And I honestly just like listened to this mantra for I don't know how long, and was just in such like awe of it and ecstasy of it. And that's when I, at that time, it's all kind of mished around that time, I saw some monks on the street, and I was like just walking to go have lunch, probably like a ham sandwich right? It wasn't vegetarian. Like I was probably going to go get a double meat ham sandwich on my way to lunch with a friend of mine. And I see these two monks on the street, and they're distributing books. And I was like, oh, cool, some Buddhists, right? right. Look at these Buddhists, right? And I kept calling them Buddhists. And, the guy's like, no, we're not Buddhists. We're Hare Krishna. I was like, I don't know what that is. But he's like, well, we're selling these. And it was the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's Gita. And I said, cool, look, I'm going to go have lunch. I'm going to come back. If you're still around, I'll buy the Gita from you. And so anyways, I came back. He was still around. Bought the Bhagavad Gita, went home. And again, at this time, I was just so absorbed in like spirituality, and I wanted something. So I sat down and I read the Bhagavad Gita, and like I read it like maybe over a week or something or two. I read it, and I couldn't understand any of the names. That was super frustrating. So I didn't read the Sanskrit part because I was just like, I don't know what that is. But I read the English, and I read Srila Prabhupada's purports. And then I put down the Gita and said, yeah, that makes sense. I'm home. And that was it. A few weeks later, I found myself in Toronto with my wife. We had moved there for a few years. And that was the first time I didn't even know what ISKCON was. I had no idea. I just looked up Hare Krishna Toronto and saw the ISKCON temple. Right. So I went down there and I walked in. And I said, I went to, I didn't care about Sunday feet. I knew nothing about any of that. I just walked in and said, look, I read the Bhagavad Gita, and I want to learn more. And so I signed up for Bhakti Sastri.
Oh, cool.
And so my first program was Bhakti Sastri, and I would smoke a joint and go into Bhakti Sastri and friggin' love it. And I'm like, this is amazing. And learn all this cool stuff about Krishna. And I had no idea that you're not supposed to smoke a joint and go to Bhakti Sastri. I had no idea. I was just like, this is amazing. And then someone was like, have you ever been to Sunday Feast? I was like, no. So I sat, and so I just stayed because Bhakti Sastri was Sunday, and then Sunday Feast was after a few hours. I never stayed that long though, right? And so I said, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll stay. So I just hung out, and I really loved the picture of Chaitanya. And I love Lord Chaitanya. He's so cool. He's just like, he's like Jesus. That's why I like him, because I like Jesus. I think Jesus is cool as cat either. And, it's so funny because like the way that I picture these guys or have my relationship with these guys, it's so cool, right? Like these guys are the coolest guys on the planet, and they welcome everybody. And I love them because they hang out with the prostitutes and the sinners, and they don't care, because everybody's God's children, and to me, that's what they embody, and that's what I love so much. And so I was really attracted to Chaitanya. And then 200, 300 people pack into Toronto Temple, Sunday Feast. it's not like church. My only experiences of church, right? Of an organized religion. Other than that, it's like Reiki shops and, you know, these like crystal shops and that stuff. And so anyways, I was sitting there and I'm like, man, this is wild. And kids are running around and people are dead. People are sweating. You know, they're just going nuts, right? You know, and Bhakti Maharaj Swami is there and he's just a monk, but he's like not a Buddhist monk because I only know Buddhist monk. He's just getting everybody going. Right. Then they serve this beautiful meal and I'm high out of my mind. And I'm just like, I love this place. I love this place. And that was it. And then I, you know, I just started studying and slowly started trying to clean up my life and started studying like the principles and all that kind of stuff. And then, and that's when I learned also, like I got reintroduced to I got reintroduced to the concept of semen retention. I was introduced to sex transmutation years prior through the personal development, the self-help guru, Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, this famous book. And so he dedicates a whole chapter to sex transmutation. And through Bhagavad Gita and the yogic philosophy, of course, there's a huge celibacy, a renunciation. There's there's a huge emphasis on renunciation of sex within our tradition. And so I got reintroduced to it and even tried it for some time. And then I found something that worked for me instead. And that's where I got into the whole semen retention and sexual alchemy and what I'm doing, helping guys right now do.
I really like the way, like in Boudica, the when you discuss that. I hope someone can put that in the comments, that the link for that episode, because I really like that. Something I appreciated was your honesty in discussing these kind of things, because I think in our movement, like you said, there's an emphasis on renunciation and kind of renouncing it, and it's not always possible for everyone. So something I want, you want to say something about that?
No. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah,
I always want to say something. So just
right,
that's a problem I'm working on.
Right. Yeah. So I maybe want to start with asking you, tell us a little bit about what you do with the Semen Retention Army, like this project that you do.
Yeah, so the Semen Retention Army trains modern men. Now, the first thing everybody has to understand is I did not build the Semen Retention Army for devotees, okay? I built Semen Retention Army for men because I want semen retention to be known by all men around the world. And you know what? It's funny because right now I'm running in the federal Canadian election. And it's campaign time right now. I'm campaigning and they're trying to use semen retention against me, right? Like there's all these social media stuff. Yeah. But you know what? It's beautiful because they're just helping me get it out there more, right? Because semen retention will transform men's lives. But I recognize I grew up in North America where 50 Cent and Tupac Shakur were my heroes. All right. So this is like where I'm coming at, right? Like, it's like, the idea of celibacy or renunciation, it's so far removed when you're deep in the pools of the material world, which I hang out in, right? And so because of that, it's like, hold on a sec. We really have to give something here that is going to gradually increase somebody's capacity to accept and to experience. Because if you tell a guy, hey, you just have to go celibate or only have sex for procreation, and he has no philosophical understanding of why, biological understanding of why, a mental understanding of why, which I can speak to it at all of those levels, right? He will have no freaking clue what you're talking about. You will sound absolutely nuts. Right. And so I built the Semen Retention Army to help men and couples all over the world. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you worship, or I don't care if you're atheist. If you've got a semen, I can help you, and I can explain to you why you want to retain your semen. Now, the beauty of semen retention is that, now this is where Ayurveda is a beautiful thing. See, according to Ayurveda, it takes 40 to 60 ounces of blood to create 1 drop of semen. all your best enzymes, all your best proteins, all your best nutrients are stored in the semen. And from a biological perspective, a material, totally on the material platform, what is success to the body? Procreation. And the man's half of that is ejaculation. So when a man ejaculates, his body thinks he's being successful. When a man doesn't ejaculate, so from that perspective, if your body is literally moving towards you ejaculating as a man, it's going to drive you to have a sex drive. Sex is a basic motivator that we have to understand why we are so lusty in the first place. Right? You can't understand. It's crazy to me that we don't talk about sex when sex is the highest principle in our philosophy. Right? That's what makes Lord Chaitanya different. Now, I am not a monk. I am not I'm much more Rajistic than I am Sattvic. But I know that, and that's my duty. That's why I'm running in politics and I'm bringing these subjects up, because it takes more of an archetype like me to bring things to the forefront that are sometimes uncomfortable. And I'd like to remind everybody that ISKCON really caters to the Brahminical class. They really train Brahmins.
Right.
But what about the rest of us? Most of us, 95% of us, are putting on a front.
Right.
And that's what the institutions don't want to hear. And I'm challenging us as a community, not because I want to be challengeful, but I do in a sense, because I want to bring this up. So I am challenging, but it's not just a Hare Krishna problem. It's not an ISKCON issue. It's what's happening all around the world.
The statistics. I mean, if you can give us, if you know any statistics regarding.
So according to men, So what? Okay, look. Okay, 1 out of 10 men right now is addicted to pornography. That's reported. We know the numbers are way higher. Pornography, there's some, it floats anywhere between 15 to 30% of the content on the internet. Younger and younger people are getting a hold of it. When your brain gets hooked on pornography, it totally distorts your relationship with sex, with sexuality, and with your role of sex. Now, remember, I was saying that according to Ayurveda, it takes 40 to 60 ounces of blood to create 1 drop of semen. What your body does is it puts all your best stuff into your semen, because remember, the goal of the body is to have sex, is to reproduce.
Right.
So about 10 to 14 days of retaining after a man ejaculates, what happens is the body, by nature's wonderful design, because Krishna is efficient, doesn't waste anything, says, hey, look, man, you're not letting your stuff go. So we're going to use that. And what your body does is it recirculates. It literally recirculates all the best enzymes, proteins, nutrients, which then begins to also stimulate the testicles. And the testicles is where your testosterone is stimulated. And here's a stat for you. Since the 1920s, testosterone has been lowering in men. We are literally more feminine than we are masculine. Our sastras tells us this is going to happen. I'm telling you, it's true on a biological level. I am less of a man than my father and way less than my grandfather. Now, I'm changing that in my life personally, right? And this, okay, because when I found out, I was like, oh. But I can see it. I had to be truthful.
Right.
I had to be honest.
And a comment on that. In our society, there has been actually so much controversy and from leaders in our movement that have fallen down from their positions due to keeping things like this a secret.
They never fell. They never fell down. They were never there in the first place.
Right.
Because Shastra tells us that when you're there, you won't fall down. So I never been there, and neither have they. And so let's stop putting people up on a pedestal. Just because somebody wears the robes doesn't mean that they've got that they're there.
Right.
Sastra says sannyasi is not even for this age. Right? So
I mean, we
have sannyasis,
right,
and we have, like, I have no doubt my guru. That's why I have no doubt of his integrity, like none.
Right.
I believe there are souls within ISKCON that are there, and they are spiritual, and I bow to them, and I am not them.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not them.
Right.
I'm here.
We're talking about that honesty is from where you can build your spiritual life
up to that.
When you kind of are honest of where you are at.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened is, so let me just explain a little bit of the quick science of this, and I'll tell you about how, like, I got to like understand where I'm at. Right. Sure. It's like, so what happens is, as the semen is reabsorbed in the body, all the best nutrients are then kept within the body. And what this does is it gives, and because testosterone is then stimulated, Big Pharma right now is cashing in on testosterone, because you know that testosterone is being, testosterone boosters are being prescribed to men now more than ever. Erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, pornography addiction, masturbation issues. The list goes on and on. Men's suicide, depression, social anxiety, men not being interested in their women, divorce rates being high, women having more affairs than men. All of it can be linked to a misuse of a misunderstanding and a twistingness, a distortion of our sexual energy. So once we learn to retain our semen, then what ends up happening is, the first thing is, it brings under natural sexual control, because I'm retaining. So guess what? One thing I'm not doing is I'm not masturbating, and at bare minimum, I'm retaining. And because now you got to think, like, I started masturbating about 9-10 years old. I didn't get introduced to the idea of not masturbating. Well, I did in the Catholic school, but they had no science. They're doing what many religions do, right? Just don't do it. It's a sin, with no explanation why. And yet the entire material world is telling you do it, and do it a lot. And it's amazing, right? So it's so confusing. So unless we actually come with some real arguments that can reach people, again, maybe not devotees, because maybe all devotees are on the spiritual platform and they're not watching porn and they're not having sex, right?
I don't think that's true.
Of course not. I'm totally being sarcastic. right. We know it's not true. That's why I'm talking about it. We know it's not true. And it may be true for some, but it's not true for me. And I don't want anybody to carry around shame or guilt, because I want the first principle to always be remembered. God loves you. God loves you. God loves you. Like Chaitanya, like Nityananda, who was willing to forgive the drunkards. Yeah. It was his mercy that was extended in such a loving and accepting way. How do you think that Jesus Christ could convert so many people to God consciousness? And how do you think Srila Prabhupada could have done it? Look at the beginnings. Look at the roots of our movement. Who was it? Mukunda Goswami? Well, he wasn't Mukunda Goswami. He was a hippie, druggy, Shaya Sundar, right? Same thing. Look at the beginning people in our movement and the mercy that was extended to them. Now they've all risen up to this platform of, and they're very, but they started, like when I read Mukunda Goswami's books, Miracle on Second Avenue.
Great book. Fantastic book.
To me, this is where I was inspired by Krishna consciousness. Yeah. But what I see a lot of today is not that. I see what I saw in the Catholic Church, and that's why I'm not a part of the Catholic Church. And I'm not saying that I'm not part of ISKCON, but I never really clicked to ISKCON because I have too much familiarity with religion in that sense. And I was like, I love the philosophy, but I see the religion here. What
similarity are you just talking about?
Well, where you cut yourself off from the rest of the world. Nobody has anything good to say other than you. Nobody can no, everything is, and everything is just becomes so just radical, that spiritual I can't
superiority
thank you. Yeah, that becomes the dominant mood. Right. And that's what I felt largely with ISKCON, is that there is I don't say that about everyone.
Yeah.
But and this may just be my experience. Actually, my experience has been overall positive with ISKCON. Let me just say that, right?
Yeah.
But I only know a few people in ISKCON, and kind of just like very carefully pick my ISKCON, friends, because largely amounted if I just see it's just like the Catholic religion, or just where people grew up in it. They don't really know much about it. They kind of follow the rules. And when you follow the rules, you think you're better than everybody else. Right. It's not a place where I want to hang out every day. I love going to the kirtans. And when I knew nothing, I liked ISKCON better than when I knew things. When I knew nothing about ISKCON, I thought it was a magical place. Then as I started to learn more about ISKCON, I was like, the people are magical, but the institution is an institution. And it is what it is. And it's the same thing it's why I'm running in politics. It's the same fight that I'm fighting. It's the decentralization of power. Stop trying to centralize the power. Srila Prabhupada never wanted that. Temples were supposed to run independently. Why are you going against that? It's the same thing I'm fighting the Canadian government for. Stop taking away the individual power and rights of people.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? It's the same thing. So it's not an ISKCON problem I'm fighting, or I'm bringing up. And yes, I am saying it's a fight because I much very embody the warrior archetype.
Right.
And this is what I learned. And I learned it through semen retention. I learned who I am by retaining my semen. And that's what semen does for you. Because as it circulates and it stimulates your testosterone, first of all, as a man, it starts to make you more masculine. We actually have too much estrogen in our body nowadays as men. Fatty foods. Okay, all this body fat that we're carrying around, it's not healthy. It's not good. It's something I've had to work hard on. I used to carry a lot. I still carry quite a bit of body fat, but I'm way down and continue to go down, because semen retention actually helps you do that. And because as you retain your semen, more testosterone is stimulated in you. As more testosterone is stimulated in you, more of your testosterone is a masculine enhancer. So it enhances your masculine qualities. So guys experience brighter skin. Their erectile dysfunctions start to go away. They realize that their mind fog begins to clear away. They get more clarity. And Ayurveda explains that because it takes so much energy to create semen, that the body then goes on this refining process till eventually your semen becomes ojas. Ojas. Yeah. Ojas means aura, we could say, right? So your ojas, or your vitality, right, is what's increased with semen retention. Now, as you increase your ojas, naturally you start to have this realization, because it's hard to describe, but it's more of an energy thing where you're like, oh, I'm definitely more spirit than body. I'm definitely more energy than my body is simply going to follow my mind. And what the semen retention does is, depending on how you're interacting with the modes, it's gonna enhance you and bring that out. So a devotee who's a better devotee than me, that practices semen retention and only hangs out with devotees and, only hangs out at temples and such, and very sattvic or transcendental locations, they're going to just skyrocket in their spiritual journey, and they'll transcend this need for sexuality. For people like me who are much in the world, my calling, I feel much more, man, when I read Bhagavad Gita, I was like, I'm down with the Pandavas.
Going around,
I like these dudes
going around and conquering cities and countries. And
man, I came here to slice and dice. I didn't come here to sit in a temple. And right, and so That's what I'm doing, right? And so I discovered it through semen retention. Because okay, so here's how I tried the monk thing. I didn't want to try the monk thing, but this is what happened. Okay, so so I'm practicing Krishna consciousness, and and I'm doing my thing. My wife ends up getting quite sick, and her health, kind of had this breakdown. She had like a breakdown in her health. And what happened is she had to go back to Toronto. I live in St. John, New Brunswick, out in Canada, and she had to go back to Toronto, Canada. What we thought might have been for a few weeks ended up into a 6-month span where we were apart. And there was, it was pretty stressful and stuff, especially the first few months where we had no idea what was going on. Like we had no answers, right? No one could tell us what was wrong. Her health's deteriorating. Nobody could tell us what's wrong. And so it's, it's that kind of time. So in those types of times, overall sexual drive will naturally decrease because stress takes over, right? Yeah. Now, one way that as men that we deal with stress is with sex or sexual release. One of the main reasons that men want to ejaculate so much is because unconsciously they're living with lots of stress. And so their nervous systems are very tight. And when our nervous systems are tight, our minds are very foggy, and we want to release that tension. Porn and masturbation becomes a release. But what I teach inside the Semen Retention Army is how to hold massive amounts of capacity within your body so you can take on, more energy, bigger problems. You can become more of a man. You can get things done. You've got motivation, and I'll explain why biologically it's the way it is. Please, so she gets sick. Because she gets sick, I got no play, right? It's time, right? Time to be a monk, right? Right. Now, I kind of welcomed the idea because at that time, I was just much more absorbed into Krishna consciousness. I still am, but I'm running for politics and stuff. I found a place where I feel good because I'll tell you my uncomfortabilities in a sec. So what ended up happening was I welcomed the challenge and the idea, and I did. And for about 3-4 months, I was just trying to be involved with Krishna. But the reality is I was fighting myself almost the whole time because I couldn't stop thinking about sex. So I think about Krishna, and I think about sex, and think about Krishna, and think about sex, and think about Krishna, and think about sex, right? And I'd be like, okay. And it's like, well, I'm not. And then every time I started thinking about Krishna and I thought about sex, I'd feel guilty. And I started to recognize that I started to develop this kind of like almost like guilt for having sexual thoughts and stuff. And I will not live my life with guilt, shame, or anything like that. I won't do it. I've made a personal decision. That's my decision. I just won't do it. No way am I going to waste my life like that. No way. That is more toxic than anything else. Shame and guilt is more toxic, scientifically more toxic than anything else. So stop feeling guilty because you're having sexual thoughts. Understand them. Let's understand sexuality instead of just rejecting sexuality. When you understand it, it's easier for you to reject. That's the thing. That's the thing that people can't wrap their minds around. Yeah. What you suppress or what you ignore will only find expression. So what happened to me is I tried to ignore it without understanding it. I just said, I'm just going to be transcendental. Nope, not happening. Then what ended up happening is I gave in and went on a porn and webcam girl blitz and blah, 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 and did all that stuff. And then I was like, man, I don't want to be doing this either. Right? I don't want to be doing this either. I don't want to be doing that, and I don't want to be doing this. So where do I go? So then I started looking for other knowledge about semen retention. And that's when I started seeing there was a whole practice developed by Taoist monks called sexual kung fu. Now, Taoists are impersonalists, so I don't buy into the Taoist philosophy as a whole. Right. But just take the sexual kung fu portion and pop it out, And you have an amazing tool for men who are like me, who want to have sexual control. I don't want to masturbate. I don't want to be addicted to porn. But I do want to have sex with my wife. That's the truth. And I have sex not just for procreation.
Right.
That's the truth. But I also want the benefits of semen retention. Now, am I going to become purified by this? Will I reach the spiritual world? No, I'm not telling you that. I am not moving the goalpost. I'm being honest where I'm at and what I feel good about.
Right.
That's it. And I feel fine. I actually feel really like content being who I am and just discussing this. And I feel like this is such a nice place to be. And I do feel like as I get older, as that I will change my body. There will be a natural process that happens here. Yeah. But right. So what semen retention, what I do with men that I work with inside the army is, first of all, I help them get rid of the porn addictions and the masturbation addictions through these practices of sexual kung fu. The word kung fu means that which requires daily discipline. So sexual kung fu is that which is disciplining our sex daily. How we discipline our sex in the Semen Retention Army is by accepting where we're at. Because I didn't build it for devotees, I'm not telling anybody to be celibate. I don't tell anybody what to do with their bedroom or sex life. That is not my business. What you do in the bedroom is your business. It's between you, your belief systems, and whoever else you want it to be part of. It's not my business. What I do is I train guys to give them tools to deal with their sexual urges by learning to open up the energy pathway. So if you're familiar with acupuncture,
yes,
we know, or in the yogic system, there's 72,000 nadis, which are points within the body of energy intersections. We know the main 7 chakras. So what we do is we work with the energetic body and we work with the physical body through meditation, muscle control, and breath work to expand the body's capacity to carry more energy. Because most men have been masturbating from a young age, as soon as they reach a few days of retaining their semen, they actually are hopped up. They're very aroused. They have a lot of sex drive, and they don't know what to do with it other than ejaculate it. What I do is I teach them to actually circulate that energy upwards through the body through these practices of Qigong and breath movement and muscle control, where you tangibly feel your body filling up with that energy and it transmutes it. Basically, it moves it from the lower centers in the body up into the heart and mind. And as it moves up, it transforms, it changes. Think about, go ahead.
So you're saying that when someone retains their semen for a certain amount of time, like these people that you work with, when it comes time where they're like, okay, I feel like aroused and that needs to be released, that's when you tell them these things to do?
That's right. Yeah. They're learning, what they're doing is they're learning physical practices to open up their energy. Most men and women, but I only work with men, most men are tense unconsciously, right? Like right now, I'm running a campaign. I am tense. I'm conscious of it though, right? So all of these practices, what they do is they help me release the tension in my body subtly. What it does is it pulls the mind from being anchored out here and always being distracted out here and places the mind back within the body. Once your awareness is in your body, you recognize right away, well, I'm not the body because I can control my body. What I can control, I am not. We have a certain amount of power, and that power lives within the body. So once your awareness is anchored in your body, then you recognize you can begin to control the body or the energies of the body. The energies of the body as a man, once they begin to flow upwards. So think about water, when you heat up water and it turns into gas and it begins to flow upwards.
Yeah.
What happens is when a man retains his semen for, anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, and then if he goes longer and longer, he builds up an excess. the body refines the semen into a gas, and it begins to flow upwards. As this gas, which carries all of the qualities of semen. So what are the qualities of semen? It's life force. It gives life energy. It's got all the best enzymes, nutrients, and proteins. The sperm itself contains the energy, right? That when in the right environment creates babies, creates a whole life. It brings a soul to the planet. So when this energy is retained within us, all of those good nutrients and everything are circled within us, and this expands and gets refined. As it gets refined, it begins to, as it heals our physical body, as it gets refined, it then begins to heal our mental body. Men will all of a sudden report brain fog clearing, more focus. Their mantra meditation increases. Half the Semen Retention Army are devotees now because of the Bodhika podcast.
Really?
Right?
Wow.
I never set out to work with Hare Krishna devotees. Now I'm working with Hare Krishna devotees. And I love it because I don't care if you're a man that's dealing with this type of stuff, devotee, not devotee, come and deal with it. And I'm not like you don't come and work with me for life. I want you for 1 year. I will train you in 1 year how to change your relationship with sex and sexuality, and how to retain your semen, even if you have a sex life. So what I do is, through these practices, men, first of all, they learn to move away from porn and masturbation. And I take them on a scale. If most men that are working with me watch some kind of porn, and so we reduce the porn watching, or we eliminate it, then how does
that tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's what a lot of devotees struggle with, from what I've heard in devotees who
porn
run
is huge,
men's groups and things like that.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is you have to recognize what happens when you watch porn, what you're really after. What you're really after is some kind of connection. Right? That's what you're really after. And where we get the most connection, the thing, nature rewards you the most for sex. So sex is the body's basic function. So when you have any sexual encounter, you get dopamine, and dopamine is nature's reward. Your feel good. Hey, good job. Right? So here's what happens is porn heightens, it's fake. So it heightens the experience. So when you watch porn, there's a massive amounts of dopamine that are released into your system. And that's why you feel good when you're watching it, because you now feel connected, right? So you're like, okay, I have a feeling of aliveness here. Connection is aliveness. When we don't feel connected, we don't feel alive, right? So what ends up happening is a massive amounts of dopamine are released. Well, a man who excessively watches porn, he's watching it every day, he's ejaculating to porn, and he's developing his habits through that. Well, his brain becomes wired, first of all, to see women like he sees them in porn videos, right? And depending on your woman, if she's not into that, that's not going to be good, right? And let's be honest, so it distorts, and it does this for both men and women. It distorts, kind of the natural actions of sex.
Then you don't know how to deal with women, because the way you're
not even attracted to real women. Men who watch too much porn can't be attracted to real women, because they're like, when they look at a real woman, the dopamine receptors are so dulled by the porn. But porn is fake. It's acting. Right. Even if it's a fantasy scenario, that fantasy, even if you try to reproduce it in real life, it's like, well, it's not like that, right? No, right? Why? Because it's fake. They're like, cut, do that again, cut. Like, yes. So you're not watching two people actually go through the act of sex. You're watching two actors put on a show. And it tricks the mind to thinking that you will be able to reproduce that. Well, I've got guys right now who have penis insecurity. They're insecure about their penis size, because when they watch porn, camera angles and the rare guy who's like has these massive penises, now they think this is what they need to have. It's the same insecurity women deal with when they look at magazines or, and it's the same. Now it's happening for men. Men are insecure about their sexual organ. This is crazy.
Already testosterone is lower since your grandfather, and now even more.
Yes. Yeah. So with low testosterone comes low mental. We're weak as men. We're weak in mind. We don't fight for anything. We don't stand for anything. Right? Hey, everybody do this. Okay. Everybody do that. Okay. Oh, my, you know what? Oh my gosh. You know what a saying? I don't know if this is popular within devotees, but I know in at least here in Canada, this is a popular saying amongst men, and it bugs me so much. Well, you know who wears the pants in the house, and they're referring to their wife?
Yes.
My gosh. What? What are you talking? And this isn't toxic masculinity. But my friends, your woman wants you to be a man. She wants you to get things done. She wants you to lead. She wants you to make decisions. She wants you to stand up for what is right. She wants you to provide. She wants you to protect.
Yeah.
This whole passive manhood thing is because actually we are biologically less masculine, and we know from the yogic knowledge, we know that the body and mind are one. Weak body, weak mind. Weak mind, you can't resist the temptations of this material world. They're too difficult. They're very powerful. And so we have to train our men where they're at. That's what I'm doing in the army. I'm training men to become powerful. I'm training men to become who are probably not going to be Brahmins, right? They're probably
honest where they're honestly at. They're not going to put on a front anymore, like you said.
No. I'm training men who are very passionate like me, probably more warrior types, feel like they want to contribute in the world, has, maybe, right? And so I've got artists, and I've got everybody. I've got mechanics, I've got army people, let's see. Professions span everywhere. I've got gay men, straight men. I've got men who are bisexual. I've got devotees, non-devotees, spiritual men, non-spiritual men. So it doesn't matter. I've got my oldest student is 70 years old.
Wow.
70 working with me inside the army, learning how to retain, learning how to transmute. The guy's like, I'm on fire. I love him. He's so cool. So,
wow.
It's a good time. We have a lot of support. We talk to each other almost on daily basis in private WhatsApp groups and such, right? I'm motivating men daily. I'm talking to men daily. So we've got very honest, real conversations. And you know what? Now we've got men, devotees, first time in their life, since they started masturbating, who've retained 30 days, 60 days. I just had a devotee go 52 days for the first time since he was a young boy.
What was his experience?
In what way? Of his 50 days?
Yeah.
Well, he's lost a bunch of weight. He's working out again, and he's really happy with that. He's also chanting. He's not doing 16 yet. He's not initiated, but he's chanting every day now. And he's able to have a girlfriend now, which is something that he's wanted. See, this is what guys want. And I know some guys, very few guys don't want these things, but the majority of us, we want these things because we're still very much in our animal consciousness, right? And so it's being able to bridge those two worlds and say, look, I recognize I'm not my body. I've had those experiences. I'm very clear I'm not my body, but I'm still very much anchored in this material world and have material obligations. So what this practice does is it gives men an opportunity. Like, for instance, I have an active sex life, but I don't retain. I've ejaculated 3 times this year, right? We're into what? August now? September. So that's it. So what is that? That's an average of once in 90 days, right? So once in 90 days, that's a pretty good average for me. You know what I'm saying? right. Because you got to think, that's not how I was trained.
Right. I have a question for someone who wants to be a part of retaining semen, they don't necessarily have to be. What if they don't want to be part of your army? If they just want to do it themselves, or they feel like embarrassed perhaps to talk to you or to another devotee about it, what would you say to someone who is like really desiring to do that but doesn't want to be a part of something just due to circumstances?
Sure. I would say to them, first of all, go on to my YouTube channel, Nakula does, and subscribe because I right now, again, because I'm campaigning in my local but like in the Canadian elections, but as soon as campaigning is done, I'll be I'll be back releasing. I release 2 to 3 videos a week, plus my Instagram. Like, you follow me, I'm very active on my social media, and I give a lot of great information, free techniques, practices. I also, if you go to nakuladas.com, and again, you can, my YouTube channel is the best place to start because there's so much content. I also have a video about where I read from, oh my goodness, his name slips my mind. But anyways, one of the leaders about semen retention and how it helps us in our consciousness. But anyways, you can go there. Then you can go to my website, nakuladas.com, and you can sign up for a free ejaculation control guide, where you can take the training there and do that. And that's all, you never you'll be on my email list and stuff, but you never have to put your hand up and say, this is who I am. You can only do that if you want to join us inside the army. Now, I do also have men I'm working with in the army. I call them the nomads. So we've got 2 battalions so far. We've got the Sadhu soldiers. That's an exclusive Hare Krishna group.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we have. So within the Semen Retention Army, there's now exclusive battalions for Hare Krishna devotees. So it has a Krishna consciousness flavor to it, right? So we talk about Krishna. We share our attractions to Krishna. It's a very positive relationship we're developing there, and that's called the Sadhu soldiers. Then I've got the Spartan battalion. Those are non-devotees. They're in different battalions. Then I've got the nomads. The nomads are guys who they don't want to be part of a battalion per se or a group. So they just work with me in the army, but one-on-one. And I also have that as well, right? So you don't have to ever be revealed. I have few people that I work with, and I have some clients that I've worked with at higher levels, one-on-one, very high profile individuals who needed some help, and their names never get mentioned or anything ever.
Because this plagues even
everywhere. Don't think it's not there, and if they tell you it's not there, statistically they're lying. Right. It's what it is. It's just what it is. And I say, how do you dismantle it? Talk about it in a positive way. That's why I don't because I didn't build the army for devotees. I did decide to use my spiritual name, Nakula does, because I wanted to distinguish myself, and this still has spiritual roots in it. And anybody who watches my content knows that there are a lot of principles that I give, but I didn't say this is a Hare Krishna thing.
Yeah, I saw on your outline on your website, I was looking at it right before that we got on, that you do a mantra meditation module.
Yeah, where I teach and I do a mantra meditation module. And so a lot of guys chant the Hare Krishna mantra in the Semen Retention Army now. Wow. Because mantra meditation is one of the best things that you can do to help transmute that energy, right? Now, the thing is, most guys, again, I don't work just with devotees, so I'm talking about men in general. And men in general aren't going to meditate every day. So I can use more dhyana practices, mechanical practices, and pranayama, right, practices to help facilitate the transmutation of your sexual energy. And with tantra practices, tantra is a beautiful practice for couples to renew a healthy sex life, to bring love back into your sex life, to humanize again sex. And from there also you can learn to have sex as a man and not ejaculate. You also become a better lover. This is, of course, so I wasn't picked. I was being considered for the mantra retreat, but I didn't make the final cut, which I have no issues with that, and I respect the decision. Just so I'm not trying to be a controversial here or anything. I respect the decision, and I still plan on attending the mantra retreat myself. Okay, so it's all good.
Is this year?
There will be the one this year. Yeah, there will be the one. It'll be a Zoom one again. And the last year's was awesome. And I encourage, if you didn't go to the mantra retreat, it was fantastic. What's his name? Mahatma Gandhi gave great information on pornography and pornography addictions. And it was revolutionary. I'm still a little too revolutionary for them still, which I respect and understand. I'm here though. I'm happy to work with the folks that I work with. Like I've worked in jails and such too as a life coach. I love that work. Like you put me in jails, put me in the hood, put me there, and that's where I'm happy to be there. To be there. But of course, to reach those types of folks, I'm not going to have the same persona as a monk. I will take on a different type of persona to reach a certain amount of folks. So
two things before you go into that. One thing is for my listeners, if you have any questions for Nakula Prabhu, please put them in the comments, and we'll have a Q&A session afterward, because the comment section can spur a lot of really good discussion. And the second thing I had was, like in the Nectar of Instruction, it says about how, like the body is like there's a line here, right? So if you control the tongue, then you can control this. And you can control the stomach and the genitals, so there's like that line. So in your training, is there any emphasis on diet?
100%.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. First thing I'll tell people is like, first of all, you have to eat a more sattvic diet, right? Like it's just easier. I know guys who smoke dope and drink and stuff and all practice semen retention and do it successfully, right? Really? But it's harder. Right? It's much harder. These Taoist practices are super powerful from a physical level to get you to be able to hold your energy and such. They're tremendous. But the idea of what you eat, absolutely. The more stimulating things that you consume, your nervous system is going to be stimulated. So ejaculation is a function of the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is your fight, flight, or freeze response. Right? So what you want to do is you want to learn to actually be in your parasympathetic nervous system. Your parasympathetic nervous system is the nervous system that's activated when you're in meditation, when you're calm, when you're mindful, let's say, right? And so what the guys that I train to do is they learn to have sex and remain in their parasympathetic nervous system. So their sexual energy actually is more bodily focused. They're not genital focused. This actually makes them more present in the bedroom, which first of all makes them better lovers for their partner and more deeply connected and satisfying sex. Oftentimes, sex is unsatisfying for people because they're missing the emotional parts of it and the spiritual parts of it, right? So even though they might have sex, then they don't feel satisfied. But in Tantra, learning to have sex while remaining mindful, first of all, allows a man not to ejaculate, so he can then be there for his woman for as much as she would like, or she kind of determines now, like when it's over, right? Not him. Okay, and that's a really cool dynamic. Men, there's a interlink. This is when I say that we should understand sex. This was fascinating. The link between a man's confidence, his psychology, and his sexual prowess and performance are highly interlinked. If a man feels he doesn't have his sexual energy under control, unconsciously, he will not be a very confident man. He will not stand up. He will, because he doesn't have that prowess, that confidence, right? Of his most basic duty as a physical man, right? And if you cannot perform your most basic duty as a physical man, it plays unconsciously on how you see yourself within the world and your confidence to go and be successful in this world. A man who is confident in his sexuality, he'll be confident. He'll be confident in his career. He'll be confident to make decisions. He won't shy away from tough choices or decisions when they come their way. He'll just carry much more masculine qualities. If he's retaining, he'll be higher in testosterone. Because he's higher in testosterone, he'll have more masculine qualities. He'll want to provide, protect.
Right.
I probably went off on a tangent there. But.
No. That's really interesting. Yeah, that was it started with the question of diet. So that's super important, I think.
Long story short, diet for sure is part of it, because I don't restrict anyone's diet because I don't do that in the army. But definitely devotees have an advantage if they follow, the vegetarian lifestyle.
Right. Let's look at the questions here. A lot of people are mentioning your energy, and I really love it too. I love the way you speak and the way you're very.
Thank you.
You're very energetic, and that's really
all that retention.
Right. Fantastic. I love that. Okay, here's something. Dear Nakula and Namras Prabhus, kudos for bringing up this stimulating this conversation. Could you please quote a modern medical reference regarding continence enhancing testosterone levels? I'm not sure what that means, but
well, I'll tell you, there are medical references. I can't give you like a specific one, but There are university papers, and so if you just Google Western medical papers or Western scientific papers on semen retention, you'll see that there are many studies to back up from Western science what it is that I'm saying. Look, I'm going to be straight up. This information is being suppressed because right now, people look, you are much easier to control. I'll just say it this way and take it out as you will. You are much easier to control if you are depleted of your sexual energy and life force, because you will not have the fight within you. It's like cutting an animal off, right? The fight goes away. It's the same thing. If you're depleting yourself all the time, right? Sorry to be graphic on your show. Like, put my hands down.
I put a trigger warning anyways.
Yeah. So if you are depleting yourself all the time, you're basically like castrating yourself, and all of trust me, your motivation, everything. Guys, within 7 to 10 days, you go 2 weeks, no masturbation, no porn, no ejaculation, and watch in 2 weeks how you'll be like, oh man, I'm going to up-level my business, or, oh man, I'm going to get the hottest girl out there. There's no more, I'm tired of being single. And you know what? I am going to get involved in politics, and I'm going to speak my truth. Or you're an artist and you're going to be like, man, I've got such inspiration for art. Why? Because sex energy is creative energy. Lord Brahma does not represent sex, passion, or the mode of passion. Right. That passion is intelligent. It created this entire universe. Now imagine if you've got all that floating through you, what you're going to be able to create, the intelligence that you're going to be able to work with, your charm, your charisma, your personality, all the qualities that have been given to you will shine through. This is known by people who grow basil plants. If you want a basil plant to keep growing and growing and growing, what must you never let it do? Come to seed. You always have to cut it before it comes to seed. Why? So that energy stays within the plant. It continues to grow and flourish.
Right.
It's the same principle. We act by the same laws as the plant and as the ant and as from a physical level. The only difference is we can become conscious of the process and now participate it. So human beings who retain their semen will, even if they never pick up the Bhagavad Gita, will become spiritual over time, because it's actually scientific. It's like it will turn your semen will turn into ojas. Ojas will give you more and more realization. I've watched guys on YouTube that do semen retention, and they start off on no fap semen retention. They're like, because one of the benefits why many guys practice is because they recognize if they give up porn and masturbation, because their sexual energy becomes more heightened, they become more attractive to women.
Right.
Because their masculine energies are attraction. Here's why most relationships lose their passion. It's because we stop polarizing each other. Meaning men become subdued in their relationship, they become more feminine, more passive. They're not making decisions. And then women have to then take the masculine role. Because the polarization isn't there, there's no attraction. Attraction happens when one pole, the positive force, which is masculine positive, I'm not talking moral positivity, I'm talking energy. A positive charge will attract a negative feminine charge.
Right.
So what happens to men who are very masculine? They attract feminine energies. Lakshmi Dev comes along, right? Right? Why? Because she's feminine, right? Women come along, pleasure comes along. Now, does this mean you should be a dog? No, because you'll lose your charge. It just means you're attracting feminine. So what ends up happening is men have figured this out. They figured out that by giving up fake sex, they can have more real sex. And in my perspective, as highly controversial as what I'm about to say is going to be inside of our community, it's better. It's better. It's better to make love to your wife than to jerk off to porn. Excuse my... to masturbate. Yeah, than to masturbate to adult films. That's me trying to behave.
Right. You threw me off with that.
It's better.
Yeah. Did I write it down? No, we talked about the diet thing. Let's look at more questions and maybe I'll remember.
And I know, I'm sorry guys, I'm floating all over the place. Like,
that's okay. I love it. This is great. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, here. You should do a masculinity course for beginners that's directed to young adults as young as 13 to 18. What do you think about that?
Actually another devotee, a man who's working with me inside the army, he's a client and works with me. He asked me, because he asked me about his own son. And about that age, about 13. I don't have anything developed right now for young adults. I would definitely want to change the program, because I would leave the sex stuff out, because as part of the army, I teach men also to be better lovers. I don't go into huge details. I am thinking about doing later on a program that's more of actual bedroom techniques and actual things like in that sense. But as of right now, I teach men how to last as long as they want, so that they can be at least performance-wise, they can feel confident in the bedroom. But I don't have anything for young adults right now, but it's something that I'm definitely open to. Here's what I get a lot of requests. Can you do this? Can you do that? The answer is this: yes, and I need your help. If you want a young adult program, then great. Let's go create something, a workshop. Let's get 10, 20, 30 young adults in a room, and I'll do the workshop. And that's how I grow my business. I grow my business by partnering with people who believe in what I'm doing and are helping me advocate for this, not just within our community, but in the world at large. Because this type of training, look, I'm going to say something right here that I hope everybody takes seriously. Pornography will be the number one problem facing men in the next 10 years.
Say it again.
Pornography will be the number one problem facing men and relationships and couples in the next 10 years. And it's already a huge issue. No one's talking about it. Let's jump ahead of the curve. The Christians, you mentioned Christian folks at the beginning, they're way ahead of the game, right? I'm actually a partner with, and speaking about different things with a Christian organization because they like my work. It's funny. The Christians are opening up more to me right now than the Hare Krishnas.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm getting invited. I have a pastor here locally who, after the campaign, we're going to be talking about this work and such. So that I don't say that as anything. It's just what it is. I'm just saying like that's what it is. So I'm not, maybe the Hare Krishna community, maybe ISKCON will never pick me up. They'll say, nah, this will never be part of us. And that's perfectly fine. I haven't everybody has free will and choice. And I want to remind everybody has free will and choice. And you're allowed to use it.
That's why we have this kind of podcast, because I don't have to cater, or I don't have to kind of please anyone when it comes to what content I can put out. I can just bring anybody on what I feel that's going to help. And this is really helping. No, this is really helping. And I think that this is fantastic. And it's really sad that this is not something that's super discussed. I think it's plaguing everyone. It's plaguing everyone.
Well, it's the elephant in the room. Exactly. Let me say that different. It's the elephant in the temple. That was a bad joke. Okay. but okay. Meaning it's like everybody's it's like. So what's happened is 95% of people are really going, yeah, I'm coming here, but I'm not really I'm never gonna no one believes they're going to the spiritual world. No one believes they're going to do these things because they're nobody's talking about, and nobody's giving any real way of actually elevating us. I shouldn't say nobody is doing that. That's probably too much or too harsh, right. But it's not, let's just say, and I'm really just thinking about my particular audience, people that might gravitate towards someone like me, is they're like me. They're probably playing video games, at night, and they're going to work, and they got a wife, and maybe they got a very Western type relationship where, right. They're having I'm, myself and my wife, we were on, the Bodhika, right. as well. Yeah. We did with Sarah, and that was really funny because, it's talk about, your relationship. I was like, our relationship was started by hooking up. We are a Western type relationship, but we've been together 12 years. We practice Tantra now. I practice semen retention. We chant, we do kirtans, we do all these things. We do service. We do what? So what? Okay. So now yeah. So am I a holy man? No, I'm not a holy man. I never said I was. And we need to stop just even the word sadhu makes me uncomfortable. I think it's funny we call ourselves the sadhu soldiers, but in no way do I think I'm a sadhu, Right. It's come on now. I'm a real, I'm just I say I'm real. They're real, but I'm not that. I should just say that. I'm just not that. Right.
Right.
I think I represent very much the common guy,
Sure. Yeah. I think that's what is really endearing about you. Yeah. Thank you both so much for the podcast. How do we reduce the stigma surrounding devotees struggling with this issue and promote transparency and honesty instead of pretending that it's not an issue? I like the way they frame that, and that's exactly okay. Yeah, let's address that.
Okay, so how do you reduce the stigma? We're doing it right now. Right. You talk about it. You talk about it openly. You talk about it with conviction. You talk about it with passion, and you be honest. You be honest with yourself first, and then and then free your mind to be honest with others. Free yourself to be honest. It's honesty that will bring you to then higher realizations of who you are, and you realize even in your imperfection, God loves you tremendously. There's nothing that you can do. I promise you that God does not just accept and love you and cherish you, and your relationship with him is so dear that there's no reason to feel any shame or guilt. And just know and take this as a sign, if you're here, to know that you're forgiven and blessed for everything. All God wants is your heart. Now, of course, he wants you to purify. Of course, he wants you to go down the journey. I'm not moving the goalpost, but I'm telling you, let's start. I'm moving the starting place for you.
All right.
All right. I'm not moving the end goal. I'm just moving the starting place. I'm saying, hey, you know what? Let's start higher than guilt and shame. Let's start on acceptance. Let's start on love. Let's start on the fact and the principle that God loves every single one of you, no matter how much porn you've watched. So then you start to go from there, right? Just like a father would love his son, no matter how much porn. My dad knows I've watched porn, right? He still loves me. He still hugs me, right? All right, like that's it. So why do you think God is not going to love you for this? Come on now. He knows what's going on down here. He created it. There's nothing you can hide there. So it's if you can't hide, if I don't hide anything from God, I won't hide anything from anyone else either. God's forgiven. Then to promote transparency and honesty instead of pretending it's not an issue, it's exactly what we're doing. Don't pretend. Bring it up. Tell your temple president. If they won't listen, start a group. Start it yourself. Connect with me. Maybe start a chapter of the Semen Retention Army. Start your own battalion. I want captains. I'm training captains, right? Right? So that we can have a whole army. So if you feel called to do this, get a workshop going. Bring it up. Bring it up. Write your GBC. Write your people. Let them know. We got to talk about this. We need to do something about this. And then start. We need leaders in our movement, right? We cannot wait for everybody else to do something. If you're hearing this and you got that little nudge in your heart right now, take action on that. Do something. Reach out to me. Connect. I'm happy to connect. My schedule for the next 3 weeks is going to be crazy. So after 3 weeks, I'm happy to connect, and let's do this. That's how we do it. And don't worry about, what's one of the most qualities of a Vaishnava? Fearless. Be fearless. Fearless, or maybe I should say be courageous.
Yeah.
You have the fear. Look, you think I'm not scared talking about this right now to this community? You think I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, my guru's going to kick me out? I don't think he will. I don't think he will. Oh, please. Don't kick me out. But do you think that there's not legitimate fears? I'll tell you right now, I'm running for office in my hometown where they're using semen retention to discredit me in my hometown. Wow. You think there's not fear? You think there's not? Tell me. Of course there's fear. But who are you? What do you believe? Are you in touch? Do you think there wasn't fear when Mukunda Goswami went out there for the first time to do book distribution? Of course. Forget fear. Look at it and use it as a weight. You know what I mean by that? Like when you go to the gym, you have to pick up resistance to get stronger.
Right.
So when you face a decision in your life to take on something that you're scared to take on, to stand out, to step out, and you feel that fear and that uncomfortability, just remember that's nothing but weights. That's going to make me stronger. The more they come at me, the more they fuel me. The more that they say this isn't a good thing, the more I can show them it is a good thing. I can show them from a scientific level. And now we've got proof. We've got testimonials, right? We're starting to collect testimonials. You can now go onto the Semen Retention sales page and hear videos and testimonials of men whose lives have improved because they have learned to retain their semen. Are they saints? Nope. Are they destined for the spiritual world? I don't know. That's Krishna's business, not mine. I don't do Krishna's business. I just simply teach what it is that I experience in benefit of others.
Thank you. If I could add something to that question, to the answer there, I think that it's really important to drag the issue into the light, whether it's with someone you feel that you can open up with. It don't suffer in silence is the point that I want to make. Even if it's one other person who you feel that could be accountable to and be like, hey, listen, I'm struggling with this thing. And that in itself is a big step to moving towards dealing with such an issue.
Well, it releases the shame and guilt or the secrecy. Right. Secrecy is worse than anything. Like, okay, here's the thing. One of the things, like, for example, when myself and my wife's relationship, we always had a good friendship and relationship, but we took another step of closeness when we talked to each other about the type of porn that we've watched or watch.
Wow.
Because all of a sudden it was like, Well, first of all, I was like, really? No, just but no, for real. It was like what it does is it brings a level of honesty that is generally not there even in our own homes. There's a lot of pretending going on in our own homes, and that needs to stop. But that's why we have to come from a place of forgiveness, compassion, understanding. Right. And I love obviously I pull lots still from my Christian background, but it's like, when Jesus said ye without sin cast the first stone. Right.
Yes.
Like that idea of like, hold on. Before it's like our vegetarians who go, I haven't been vegetarian my whole life. I went vegetarian it's probably about 4 or 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm 36. So that means 31 years I ate meat. Who am I now to turn around and all of a sudden have some kind of like judgment over others who eat meat? Rather than judging each other, educate each other. And people will only listen to you if they feel they can relate to you.
Yeah.
Or, right? If not, it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. It's just a bunch of like, yeah, okay, cool. Right? That's nice. It's like when my priest would tell me, don't masturbate, it's sin. All right, whatever. But when I saw a young guy, my mentor in sexual kung fu is younger than me.
Wow.
Yeah, my mentor who taught me all these practices, he's about 4 or 5 years younger than me. So when I saw a young guy, he was spiritual. He's not Krishna conscious, but he was spiritual. He was talking about his own sex life very openly. He was from North America. He was talking about all this Eastern philosophy and sex transmutation and tantra. I was like, man, this is really cool stuff. And I ended up I joined his program, and then he helped me teach. He taught me, and then helped me set up the business and the training program. Well, he helped me set up the training program in which I've built the Semen Retention Army and building the army on. And so that's a guy younger than me, but I could have related to him. And I was like, yes, because at one time, I did try asking some senior devotees about the subject, and no one wanted to talk to me. And one answer, which I respect, it was the truth, and I can always respect the truth. And he just said, you know what? I don't really have that much experience in that, so I don't really know. Wow. So I was like, okay, cool. It's like, okay, cool. But that's where I was like, well, I got too much experience in this. You got no experience, and I got too much experience. So I need to find something that's going to work for me. Right. And I'll go back to when, like I said, like when my wife was sick and I tried to be, I did it. I did it, but I didn't feel legit in it. It was because I was like thinking about sex all the time. And then, like I said, and then it kind of came to head with this whole kind of like just watching tons of porn and webcam girls and all this type of stuff. And then I was like, okay, I got to really find something that's going to work for me. And so I was like, that's when I found Tantra and all of these practices. And then I found people that were talking about sex in a positive way again. And I get it. They're not on the spiritual platform for sure, some of these folks, but what they're trying to do, and I respect that, and I can jump on board with that, is they're eliminating shame and guilt around sex. Yeah. Because it is a very natural thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just how you're using it. And once you become more conscious of it and you dive deeper into it, like I have, you can use it. Like, look, like most guys, I've ejaculated 3 times this year. Most guys, I'm not a monk, but that is beyond what most guys are doing statistically in the world, Right. Yeah. So
I also want to add that this is not a religious thing. Like there are movements out there, like the NoFap movement, and like
not religious at all.
So many. If you look on YouTube, there are tons of people who are understanding like the benefit of this.
Let me give you a stat, okay? When I started my YouTube channel, which was just about 2 years ago, when I researched the keyword semen retention, there was about 22,000 average types, unique types in a month. If I do it now, there's over 80,000. So we're just, and what the work that we're doing right now, that's going to be in the millions over the next several years as more men learn about this. And look, like I'm getting, I should say I'm getting, painted, weirdly by people in my town because of it. But I've had people reach out now to me, never heard of this concept, but because I'm running and I have a name out here or gaining a name, they're like, oh, what is this semen retention thing? So it's going to get out there.
Yeah.
NoFap is another one. NoFap is even bigger than semen retention. So if people know the difference between the two kind of movements, NoFap is mainly focused on no porn, no masturbation. And what those guys that recognize is if they don't fap, they don't masturbate, they don't watch porn, they're more inclined to chase real women. They're more inclined to go out to the club or to do whatever and blah, blah, blah. And again, I can get behind it because it's better than sitting at home in secret when your wife goes out or whatever you're doing.
Right.
Secret stuff is detrimental. If you're watching porn, then watch it, tell your wife. Or if you're the lady and you want to tell him. Yeah. Don't do things in secret. That's the first thing. All right. Be honest with what you're doing. Don't be shameful of it. Again, statistically, it's what everybody's doing. I did a post on my political page because they were trying to, harass me on this stuff. And I was like, hey, statistically, you've all done it. So I don't know who's virtue is singling mine over here. Like, get out of here. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, numbers don't lie. I'm sorry, right? Like, the numbers are what they are. So, like, just don't have shame or guilt over it. Just be like, yeah, this is it. What you'll notice right away is all of a sudden you'll notice that the pull on it, starts to go away almost right away just by being honest about it. It's like all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm good. I don't even need to do it. Why? Because you've released this certain amount of weirdness that you have around it. Then from there, you do the NoFap thing, and NoFap gets you off the porn. It gets you off masturbating. And great, like I've got one devotee army member. He's in his 40s. He said, I haven't had so much sex with my wife for a long time, and our relationship is so much better right now.
Wow.
Why? Because so you might be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's talking about his sex life like this, like blah, 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 or whatever. Well, what do you want him to do? What's he doing instead? He's masturbating to porn, and therefore he has no drive to go after his wife. Now he's not masturbating to porn. He still has a hard sexual charge. So he's having time with his wife. And he said the amazing thing though is how outside the bedroom we're better. Yes, because you're into her, you're intimate. Your intimacy isn't just in the bedroom, it's everywhere. It's how are you guys as friends? Are you partners? Are you a team? Or are you just doing two individuals doing things coexisting?
Huge point. Wow.
Right? A good sex life at home, if you're going to have sex, a good, healthy sex life makes you more intimate with each other, right? There's tons of science. There's tons of things to show that. Is it the highest spiritual principle? No. But it's better than watching porn and masturbating by yourself or doing this kind of nonsense. And you'll recognize that when you actually do have real sex, you're like less, like you actually are more satisfied than porn. Then you can learn Tantra. Then the next step up I take men is to learn Tantra, where they can still engage in a sex life, but they retain their semen. So they can still have sex, but they don't ejaculate, which then keeps all their energy, and it keeps the testosterone, and it keeps it keeps them like going, right? And they begin to come out. And when I say they begin to come out, meaning all of them, their qualities, your artistic quality. If you're a mechanic, you're a better mechanic. It makes you better because it's literally the building blocks of who you are on a physical level are being restored. And this is starting to enhance your God-given qualities and talents. Mentally, you become sharper. This means you can start to understand higher spiritual concepts and also retain. Your memory improves. When memory improves, intelligence improves because you now have more connections in the brain to solve problems. Because you have sex drive in you, your basic motivator, you have motivation. Look, my morning routine was to get up, masturbate in the morning, and deplete myself, then start the day. Ejaculate, start the day, right? Now, because I don't do that, I get up and I get to work. And I get a workout in. And then I get this done, and that done, and this done. And I can go on 4 or 5 hours of sleep sometimes, and I'm fine because I'm still rocking it. And I've been eating 1 meal a day and blah, blah, blah. Why? Because there's so much ojas. There's so much vitality. So
hey, I just want to ask a little bit about practically. I've heard that headstands is good because it brings that energy down to your brain. Do you know anything about that, or have you heard of that?
Yeah, sure. Well, where the blood flows, energy goes.
Right.
So standing on your head, it's easier that your blood, so therefore your energy and everything will flow towards the brain. It's good to nourish the brain and get a lot of circulation there as well. And it helps create the upward flow. So there's many different practices. Again, I teach sexual kung fu practices specifically, which are about circulating the energy up to the brain, nourishing it up into the heart center, through the chakra system, around what's known as the microcosmic orbit in the Chinese medicine system. So, but there are many different practices. The yogis discovered this too. Tantra came from the yogis, right? Like all of this comes from the Vedas. I mean, even the lower, the thing is, in our tradition, specifically in Bhakti, we don't actually explore the other parts of the Vedas, but I have on my own. Right? And I get it, right? We don't really get into those aspects. And like, for example, I read the Kama Sutra. The Kama Sutra is often just in the Western world is depicted as just like sex positions. But actually, you know what one of the main principal philosophies of the Kama Sutra? Sex comes after responsibility. See, a lot of people don't know these things. So what's happened in our world, and this is why I say our whole the whole sex life is distorted.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is distorted. And because the whole thing is distorted and it's our most basic energy, guess what? We're all living a bit distorted because of it.
Let's go to more questions here. And different comments here. I like this comment. Reduce stigma by talking about your own journey first versus waiting for others in a small personal group. That.
Great advice. Yeah. And that's it, because you get more courage too. And the more of us, that's why as the army grows, it's only going to continue to grow because it's only giving more and more guys more courage. Look, in the last, I launched the Sexual Alchemy program, which is the training program when you join the army. I launched that just over a year ago. Since a year, we're in September, so 1 year. So I'm going to celebrate 1 year of doing this as a business this month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. In that 1 year, we have served over 80 men for our full courses. And in total, we've served over 700 men in 1 year with our free programs. And in 2 years, my YouTube channel has grown close to 6,000 subscribers. Where do you think this is only going to grow and expand as we continue to spread it out? And more people that get courage, the more it's going to grow until eventually it hits a tipping point where more men than not will understand the benefits of having good sexual control. And this will be able to reach people of all walks of life because I didn't particularly attach it to any religion.
Right. Brain Gain by His Holiness Don Virgo Swami has good info. I guess that's a book. I've never heard of that book, but that's good to look at. Prabhupada
there's many there's whoever engages in sex life becomes impotent. What is that?
Over engages.
Oh, over engages in sex life, becomes impotent. Yes, yes. That's what's happening. Yes, yes. That's what's happening right now. Men are engaged in fake sex life, so overstimulating, and that's why they're having erectile dysfunction and all of these things, right? They're over engaged.
You're gonna say something about this comment?
Oh, the brain. Yeah. So
there's other books you said?
Yeah, there's other books. Brahmacari and Krishna Consciousness is a really good one that talks a lot about the different science behind it. And someone had sent me, I think in Srimad Bhagavatam, there was something about the four Kumars. They talk about when their semen flows upwards, then they get enough intelligence to understand the spiritual concept. The only thing, the controversial part is that in our tradition, the only way it's taught is to give up sex completely, and it is true. It is 100% true. I'm not adjusting the goalpost, but I'm saying that there's let's say there's like on a ladder, you can there's easier rungs to grab to, which will make it easier for you to then eventually take it all the way. That's all I'm saying.
Great point. Yeah, you definitely made that clear. Does Prabhu have any technique for not passing semen while asleep?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So nightfalls or wet dreams are something that, first of all, it happens. So again, no shame, no guilt. Many men have it, and I helped many men with this. So the first thing is the practices themselves. One of the reasons that we have wet dreams is because we have unconscious sexual, impressions in our head that are coming up. So that can stimulate us. If the body gets too hot, it may be trained to release itself, to cool itself by ejaculating. So what you can do is take a cold shower at night, will really help. There are some practices, like there's one move I call the triple heater. It's a cooling breath that you can do right before bed that will calm the mind and allow your body to cool and your energy to settle. Avoid heavy food. So no rice and dal at night. Salad, or at least if you're going to have the dal, no rice. All right. A little bit of salad, stay away from the puris and such. Lighter food, soup, salad, sandwich, lighter foods at night. Also stay away from these bad boys, stimulating blue light or images an hour to 2 hours before bed. You'll notice that it's easier to go to rest. You'll notice that your wet dreams will decrease. Now, one guy that I worked with, how we helped him is he would do the practices, because I teach you how to circulate the energy. So by circulating the energy upwards and such before bed, the energy won't want to. So you have to understand there's a difference between a male orgasm and ejaculation. They're actually two separate things, but they happen simultaneously. In sexual alchemy, we learn so an orgasm is a buildup of energy that then pulsates when it hits its peak or its height of buildup. So what happens is, for most men, once they build up enough energy they feel aroused, they have sex drive, or just to use just plain language, they're horny. Okay. They're looking for sex. Okay. So what most men have trained themselves to do, like myself, is that means when we have that energy, we need to release it. We need to put it somewhere. And what that means for most of us is we ejaculated outwards. And that's why we feel like a after. Now that after is also the prolactin that's being released in your system. Prolactin is a substance that that is triggered when you ejaculate to calm you and to reward you, if you will, for ejaculating. But it stifles testosterone. And because it stifles testosterone, a man who's ejaculating often, he has low testosterone and his estrogen increases, which means it makes him more feminine. He'll carry more body fat. He'll become more passive. He'll lose his motivation. He'll have more brain fog, more social anxiety. So many challenges and issues will come up. And depending on the degree and overall lifestyle, it'll be, on a spectrum. When you circulate the energy, right, through these breathing techniques, then you retrain that when that energy builds, it doesn't push outwards through the penis, it pushes upwards through the spine. And because it travels upwards, there's no need to ejaculate. And this is where men can experience full body orgasms and multiple orgasm, energetic orgasms. So like I mentioned, I've only ejaculated 3 times this year, but myself and my wife, we have an active sex life, and I've had full body orgasms. And when I have those, they're satisfying to like, oh, okay, I'm good, without losing a drop of semen.
Wow.
So again, it does. Am I giving up sex at this time? Am I a renunciant? No, but I am still able to have all the energy. And in fact, I actually have probably more testosterone, because when you're having sex, so sex again is the most basic function of the body. And therefore, when you're having sex, all of the hormones are stimulated. When a man has non-ejaculatory sex and he's finished, all of those hormones are still stimulated, and everything is still like at its heightened peak. Now you take that and put it into your work. You take that and all of a sudden you want to clean the house.
Creative energy.
That's right. Now you have creative energy pumping through you.
Right.
And now you're gone. And like I said, no matter what time I go to bed, right, by 6 o'clock, I'm awake, in all ways. And I'm ready to go. Right? And that is the most potent energy you have. And again, there's so much attractive power. There's so much power that comes with it. I mean, outside of our tradition, this is what King Solomon knew. For those who are familiar with King Solomon in the Judeo Christian tradition, this is what the Yellow Emperor. The Chinese emperor, he was, of course, atheistic. He was impersonalist, but he understood this. The Taoist monks, when the Chinese took over the monasteries in the Himalayas and from the Taoist tradition, they found this out, and he was trained how to do this. And he would have sex every night, non-ejaculatory sex every night, with multiple women. I'm not condoning this. I'm not saying, right. I'm just saying this is part of history, right? This is just what, right? Right. And he would have sex with multiple women so that he would have so much drive and vigor. And he became the Chinese emperor. He became a massive emperor. So this is something that Kshatriya class, warrior class, has known for a very, very, very long time. It's something also that, of course, the monks and such know, that if you transmute that sexual energy, there's a tremendous amounts of power that comes with it. But this information has generally been, whether suppressed, oppressed, lost, I don't know, doesn't matter, has largely been kept away from the general public.
Wow. Very interesting. Here's a question. Interesting question. What's the least harmful porn you know of?
Least harmful porn?
Is that even a thing?
It's not. I mean, I guess like at least, yeah. Like there's, because like there's like really hardcore stuff, and then there's like softcore stuff. I would say, as best as you can, you don't want to indulge in it. But if you're gonna watch porn and you want something like that, there's instructional porn, Kama Sutra, and they're like adult films that show couples making love as opposed to like, having these raw sex scenes, right? That like, as we think of pornography, there is like couples like making love and are intimate. That would be better, to answer that question.
Any notable quote that always needs to be in the background to boost our morale and always remember the importance of semen retention? Like any quotes that you would kind of, maybe like a sutra or something that you could.
Okay, so there's I try to think, because I actually did a video where I released like famous quotes from different people. Yeah, and so there's a bunch. Mahatma Gandhi was a huge advocate of semen retention. He actually, again, they try to discredit him with his sexual practices. There's the controversy about him, but again, he understood the power behind it, and he understood it fully. It's why he was able to do what he did, and he gives credit to it. And he says, a man who retains his semen will become the most powerful man.
Wow. That's a good quote. Looks like that's the amount of questions there. It doesn't seem like, this is a topic that needs to be developed, and not everyone is open to kind of discussing it. So
sure.
Yeah, it's kind of understood that we're not going to have a super long discussion. But Nakula Prabhu, any parting words or conclusion for our listeners here?
Yeah, like again, today was a conversation, and we kind of touched upon highlights of different ideas and concepts and points. I would suggest, subscribe to my YouTube channel. You could just find it under Nakula Das, and I'm there. Yeah, and just look up my that name, and I'm there. And go deeper into it. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. The more honest you are with yourself, the more you can be with others, and you'll feel the mercy of that honesty. That honesty will start to loosen up your own maybe habits or things that you're dealing with. And this is advice for any aspect of life. And then my last parting words is be brave. Be brave, be courageous, and do what you need to do without shame, fear, or guilt, to live the life that you want to live. You have free will and choice. Feel free to use it, and be smart and intelligent with where you're at, and move forward. And don't worry about anybody else. Don't just forget. Don't live your life thinking what other people will think of you. You'll never discover anything cool about yourself or awesome or different dimensions if you give your power to others. You'll always limit yourself. So give yourself permission to be you, and you'll see how awesome you are.
Awesome. I had a fantastic time talking to you, and I really admire you. You're very, something about your like openness and kind of like you being real, the realness and rawness of your personality is it's like a breath of fresh air. And I really, really commend you for doing that and for being you. I really appreciate that. And I wish you the best of luck for winning. What is it? Is it like a governor or something? Like, what do you
So in Canadian, we have a parliamentary system.
Okay.
So we still use the British parliamentary system. And so I'm running right now for member of parliament for the Canadian House of Commons, for the Canadian government.
Wow, that's fantastic. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity. I know I appreciate yourself and Jaya and Karuna, because I know that you guys are putting yourself, also like a little bit on the line with me, right? And to have me here. So I appreciate it. And I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you. It really means a lot to me.
I really admire what you're doing. This is fantastic. And just I don't know, I can go on about it, but I just love the honesty, and I love that you're just who you are. That's so needed in our Krishna consciousness movement. People are just, me included, we're putting on fronts and things, and it's like, we don't need to do that, because it just makes things worse. We've seen in the previous generation how things have happened, how things have fallen apart because of that. And we need to be more real. We need to be more honest. We need to talk to each other. We need to bring these things out into the open so we can heal from them. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to Nakula Das's channel. Google Semen Retention Army. You'll see them. The first hit is his website. We have Deva Madhava on tomorrow. We're gonna have a three parts for our podcast here. So today was Nakula Das. Tomorrow is Deva Madhava, who's from Ypsilanti. He's an amazing person. Has started a community in Ypsilanti, Michigan. He's gonna come out and talk about his journey and all kinds of other things. And then the day after is Navina Nirada Prabhu. He's a legendary book distributor in our movement, and he's gonna talk about appreciation, the power of appreciation. So really cool things coming up on the late morning program. Later in the month of September, we have Sachinandan Swami, Giriraj Swami, who are going to come on and talk about their journeys and things like that. So it's going to be really nice. So again, Nakula Prabhu, thank you for joining me. Stay on. I'm going to just turn off the live. Have the great rest of your evening, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare